Hello, my name is Justin, and welcome to my journal entry number 1 for writing for feature films at Texas Tech University. Now, today, the main topic I will be discussing is the premise. And the overall importance of this topic is, well, everything. Essentially, without a premise, you can't write your script, and you can't really tell a story without that one thing. Now, I chose a film that essentially focuses on a premise so obscure that you're like, I don't see how this works. But essentially, the movie is able to take an obscure premise and it's able to make it very, very emotional and very, very deep. Now, from our readings this week, as it says in the book, the premise essentially focuses on one sentence that describes your entire film. hmm Just one sentence that changes how this story is going to go and how it's going to be. Now, other concepts that I've read from the book that deal with the premise is also simplicity. Now, simplicity essentially has just one focus and one main conflict that the character has to get through, and also a theme. Without a theme, your films can be fun, they can be adventurous, exciting, like kids' films, but at the same time, for modern films, for the regular people, they can feel rushed, they can feel dated, they can just feel a little bit out of place if you don't essentially have a theme that you're going for. Now, the purpose of these concepts in any film, they explain a lot. They really get your story going, and they really get your characters and setting in a really strong place. And without most of these concepts, your film just would not work. Now, any spectator can recognize these just by thinking as they watch the film, which, some people just don't like to think. But usually, when some go home and think about the film afterwards, they start noticing all these little details that it's like, wow, that actually relates a little bit more to my life. And there are some advantages and disadvantages of these certain topics, especially the premise. The advantages is that you have a starting point and you can work your way through that point and make yourself a good film. However, on the other hand, if you don't stick to that idea of the premise, then your film could just feel out of nowhere incomplete and just a rush to some people who aren't understanding what you're trying to do. Now, the best strategy for a premise essentially is that you have to take a lot of time and effort into explaining it. You have to focus on that topic, that premise that you're going to make for your film. And by focusing on it, writing the script gives you a little bit of an edge because you know what your story is mainly about. Okay, so now we're going to cut to the film About Time. That is the film that I chose for this topic. Now, the film is about this family who essentially discovers time travel, and the dad warns them to never use it for greed or for bad. However, one of the siblings in the family decides to use it to try and reconnect with his long lost love that he split a long time ago. That is the basics of the story. Now, the film is certainly able to dive into the premise a lot because, like I said, what I said earlier about the main points of the film, that's my premise. That's what you have to work off of. A man going back in time to see his loved ones once more. And the film is a really good job of showing you, you know, this is your premise, and with this, you follow this man on this journey who tries desperately to be with someone he loves, but at the same time, it causes problems that he can't change, which is ironic that a time traveler can't change what's going to happen because it's just the way it is. Now, the movie succeeds in really just being able to apply an idea such as the premise and the theme of, despite the fact that you can time travel, time eventually catches up to everyone and you can't stop what could happen to people. And it's also simple to get to understand and it's a main conflict that the character has to deal with. And they do a really good job in all those topics and conflicts that our main character has to go through. Now, yet again, it does have some of the pretty bad moments of, the plot has to work around the premise of, it has to have some consistencies that really make the film a little bit weird. But other than that, it really is a good story and one that I think a lot of people should see. The actors were great, the actresses were great. Rachel McAdams really does shine in this one, and it's really amazing that actors can take a premise like that and make it good. Now, the takeaways of these topics is that using these theories and concepts can help your story and other how should I say, other ways to improve how you write. Without your premise, you essentially are writing a boneless story. There's no layers that you can add to it. And really that's something that you got to take away, is that without your premise, essentially you're just writing a dead movie on arrival. Now, that's something I really learned about from this film, and the connections that you kind of find between your premise and other films is that, yet again, they just tell you the bare bones of what the movie's about. They don't give away everything, and that's something that a lot of people have to understand, is that a premise, you can't give away your whole story. You just have to try and focus on the main point it's trying to get, and then from there it can really work. And my insights really are the readings that I've gone through, um, about your premise, your themes, and your conflicts. They really are key points that you have to have in your script, or otherwise the entire thing just falls apart. So to wrap everything up, like I said, a premise is very important, and the movie About Time really shows you that you can take a dumb plot about that and you can make it in a very emotional and well connected film that is able to really bring to life just basic little storytelling. So I want to thank you for listening to this. I would like to give a shout out to some citations such as Cowgill, Walter R. on the essentials of screenwriting, and Truby J. on the anatomy of a story. These are great articles and stories that you can read about making a better film and a better script, most of all. So I want to thank you for listening. Thank you for being patient since it's my first time kind of making something like this for a class. And I will talk to you all later. Peace.